It's time for happy. How many of you are excited for the journey that is opening up in front of us? How many of you are excited to explore happiness? The journey is about to begin. For those of you who don't know, my name is Neil Shah. I'm the Chief De-Stressing Officer at the Stress Management Society, and I'm author of a number of different books, one called The 10-Step Stress Solution, and 4 different books on NLP, the most recent one called Turning Negatives into Positives. And today is an opportunity for us to really set the scene for the work that we're going to do over the next couple of weeks. And so we've got a 2-week journey, which is to really explore happiness, what it means to us, and how we can start to recreate this experience of happiness as a more constant experience in our life. So let's just start by defining happiness. So I see there's quite a few of you that have already joined in. Question: what is happiness anyway? What is happiness to you? So it's an actual question, not a rhetorical one. So let's see what you've got there. Give us your responses. So if I said to you, what is happiness anyway? How would you respond to that question? How would you describe happiness to an alien from a planet that doesn't have the emotion of happiness? You know, how would you go about describing that? And it's not necessarily an easy question for many of us to answer. Now let's just go back to kind of how the experts may define it, or the dictionary may define it. We'll start kind of with that. Now, I'm going to encourage you at the beginning of this journey not to believe anything I say. And don't believe a word that I say. It's only true if it's true for you. I'm here to help you to find your truth. I'm not here to tell you what's right and what's wrong. I'm just going to give you things to think about, things to explore. Now, according to the dictionary, I'm going to read this out. The Oxford Dictionary's definition of happiness is a very simple one: the state of being happy. That was easy, right? So we just need to achieve the state of being happy. But what is happy? And the definition of happy is a feeling or a showing of pleasure or contentment. So happiness effectively is the state of feeling or showing of pleasure or contentment. If that's the case, then happiness is a state, not a trait. I say that again: happiness is a state, not a trait. And as with any state, it's flux. You know, happiness can come and it can go. It's not fixed. Happiness isn't permanent. And that's one of the biggest universal laws that I've learned in life, is the universal law of impermanence. No matter how amazingly happy you feel, it will change. You're not always going to feel that way. There will be a time where you're going to feel miserable. And equally, no matter how miserable and upset and sad you are, it will end. There will be a time when you're going to feel that way. If I have a pain in my leg and the pain is really bad, one of two things is going to happen. Either the pain's going to get better or I'm going to die. Either way, the pain's going to end. It's not permanent. Nothing is permanent. You are not permanent. This planet is not permanent. Everything is in a state of impermanence, and that is one of the fundamental universal laws. So if that is the case, we've got to bear in mind that if you stand at the bus stop long enough, happiness is going to come round. Because, you know, if you're miserable, that will change eventually, unless you choose to stay that way. And this is the same thing with happiness, is you can choose to be happy. That feeling of pleasure and contentment is brought about by a series of chemical reactions. There are certain hormones that your body produces that effectively put you into the state of happy. And that comes down to you making a conscious choice at some level, or maybe even a subconscious choice, to be happy. Now, let me give you an example. 11 blokes put on their football kits and run around the pitch. At the end of that game, if you're a football fan, you will choose whether you're happy or miserable based on the outcome of those 11 men or women kicking a ball around. Now, if it's the team in red who happen to be the team you support, you're going to be happy, particularly if it's an important game or a cup final or something. If it's a team in blue and you don't support the team in blue, you might decide to be miserable. No, you aren't in a state of pleasure or contentment because of people kicking the ball around. You're in a state of pleasure or contentment because you chose based on the outcome that suited your internal paradigm, suited your story. You chose to be happy. And okay, that's quite a simplistic example, but at every junction in your life, at every experience, you are making choices, conscious or subconscious, about how you are viewing the outcomes of those scenarios. If I start this webinar and we're having this discussion and you're listening in intently, and I sit here and I say to you, I can't believe I got up at 6 o'clock in the morning to waste 15 minutes of my life talking to you people. I could be in bed right now. I could be walking my dog. I can't believe I'm wasting 15 minutes of my life doing this thing. All right. If I say those words, how might you feel? You're like, bloody hell, who is this bloke? He's our coach for the next 2 weeks and he's a miserable git, right? On the flip side, let's say I start this conversation and I'm like, oh my God, I'm so blessed and honored and so amazingly happy to be spending 2 weeks coaching you incredible, wonderful, beautiful people. I'm so grateful to Susie for allowing me to be on this call. It's just, the most incredible experience of my life. How might you feel if I say those words? You might feel happy, warm. You might be a bit cynical. What's he trying to sell us? What's he up to? Equally, when I was saying those mean things, you might have laughed. What you've got to bear in mind, in both of those scenarios, I just said a collection of words. You chose to react to those collection of words in a way that suited your internal paradigm and suited your internal dialogue. It was nothing to do with me. You could blame me for saying these horrible things, but you chose to react to them. Equally, you could be like, oh my God, I'm so happy. I feel so much love because you said these nice words. I just said a bunch of words. Now, if we start to take back control, we understand that certain experiences, certain situations, certain words, certain scenarios are going to elicit a kind of response. And we understand that we are choosing that. You could choose a different response as well. If I said those mean things, you could choose to laugh and find it really funny. So there's one big key concept that I want to start by introducing into you this morning, and it's the concept of perception versus reality. The subconscious mind cannot differentiate between what is real and what is received. If you perceive something vividly enough, your body will react as if it's actually physically experiencing it. And if we also take on board the fact that happiness is a physical response, there's physiological changes that occur. The way that you use your body is different in a state of happy than when you're sad or upset or frustrated. You tend to hunch over, your body becomes a bit tighter, your breathing becomes a bit shallow and faster. When we're happy, we tend to be more open, we tend to be more dynamic. People move and they're bouncing and they're jumping around because they're all excited. Now, if we understand that, and we understand there's a link from your psychology to your physiology, and we understand that there's a choice and there's a physiological state that you go into, surely we can create this at will. Hence, this program and the book that I'm working on being called The Art and the Science of Happiness, because there is science to happiness, and there is obviously the art to how we create this experience in our lives. And that's really, what I want us to start really reflecting on is, what does happiness mean to us? It's that question I asked you at the beginning. What is happy anyway? And some of you have given me some thoughts around this. So you said it's peace and contentment. Paul Harvey was saying it's a state of flow, a place without fear. In fact, there are two sort of really strong schools of thoughts around happiness. One is a human being's natural sort of desire to move away from pain and towards pleasure. Now, I guess one of the things for you to think about, are you someone that is more motivated by the absence of pain, or are you someone that is more motivated by the sense of pleasure? Now, I know that for me, I'm definitely more motivated by the sense of pleasure. I can deal with pain, and I've had to deal with some painful situations physically, mentally, emotionally through my life. I got to a point where, I can kind of handle that. But the one thing that really kind of gets my juices flowing is to be able to attain those feelings of pleasure, whether that's because I've just completed a race, or I've just gone on stage and spoken to thousands of people, or just done something that's really got my juices flowing. Now, that's the first thing for you to start thinking about. What is it that motivates and inspires you? And also to think about the fact that, for us to achieve the optimal state of well-being, there are many different factors that we need to think about. It's what we call our well-being train. The train has many different carriages. And our carriages would be things like relationship, finances, mental health, physical health, social contribution, fun, all manner of different aspects of our life, nutrition, sleep, etc., etc. Now, what's interesting is when our well-being train is working optimally, when it's functioning at its very best, you are maximizing your chances of being happy. If there are parts of your well-being that are compromised, that in turn is going to affect how happy you feel. For example, if you're not slept well at night, you're going to wake up and you're going to be less happy, you're going to be more snappy, more irritable. If you haven't fueled yourself correctly, if you're hungry, I get hangry. I'm a typical hangry vegan. As long as I get my food, I'm fine. But if I don't, I will literally be like a bear with a sore head. That's something that I know is really important for my happiness, is to have access to food. So going back to this concept of perception versus reality, that we are creating our world in our minds, and we are, by the way we view things, we're determining whether this is good or bad. Now, here's the thing. It's not perception versus reality. Effectively, your perception becomes your reality, because if you walk around with this worldview that the world is miserable and everything's doom and gloom and the sky's going to fall on our head, you're probably right. But equally, if you're walking around like the world is full of amazing experiences and wonderful people and incredible opportunities, again, you're probably right. And you're actually going to find those things in your life. There's a comic strip I used to read in the Beano when I was younger. It's a guy called Calamity James. And he would literally walk around. His best friend was a lemming, kind of give you an example of what he was all about. And he'd walk around and he'd have this grey cloud over him and he'd be falling down ditches and stuff. But as he's walking down, the street, there'll be like a bag of diamonds and a check for £1 million and a big cream cake. And he could never see them. He could never see these incredible things that he had around him because he was just so focused on how terrible, miserable his life was. So that's kind of really the scene that I wanted to set for the next couple of weeks, is what is your current perception? How does that translate to the reality that you have? Do you want to change your reality? Are you willing to look at your perceptions? And are you willing to really start to understand what happiness truly means for you? And with that in mind, there is a bit of homework today. My biggest stress, my biggest challenge over the next 2 weeks is I've literally got 15 minutes with you every day. There is so much I want to share. I'm blessed and honored that over the last 16 years, I've got to travel the world. I've had the opportunity to work with hundreds of thousands of people from different backgrounds, different cultures, different religions, different economic states, different industries for the companies that I work with. And I found that there's some common threads. Humans are humans. What motivates and inspires someone in one part of the world ultimately is not too dissimilar that will motivate, inspire, and create happiness for someone in another part of the world. So ultimately, I'm here to share with you some human truths based on my observations, based on my sort of research and observations of literally having had the opportunity to work with hundreds of thousands of people around the world. And ultimately, this is an opportunity for you to really start to think about, how do you create the life experience that you want? So today's homework is you're gonna have a little exercise, 15 minutes of your life, but this is 15 minutes that potentially will help you to really understand how you're going to start creating that experience of happiness on a daily basis, consciously. Don't leave happiness to chance. So there is a worksheet, so you can print out or you can fill it in online, and it's a reflection exercise. So I want you to go away and reflect on, what does happiness look and feel like for you? And really take some time to think about experiences where you have been truly happy, where literally, the sun is shining and you're beaming from ear to ear. What does that look and feel like? What do you think about, when was the last time you were truly happy, where you just had that state of contentment and pleasure? Now remember, as I said, happiness is a state, not a trait. When was the last time you were in that state? And what makes you happy? If there are certain things I could give you, maybe I create the opportunity for your football team to win the cup final, for you to be sat on a beach soaking up the sun, for you to, be swimming in the lake with your family. What makes you happy? What kind of things make you happy? Is it Is it an emotional thing? Is it sort of physical surroundings? Is it experiences? What kind of things make you happy? And the most important thing for you to reflect on, let's think about the future. How could you improve your happiness? So make 3 commitments that you're going to agree to do today to enhance your experience of happiness. And make sure they're specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and time-bound. So example is, I'm going to meditate for 10 minutes every morning for the next 2 weeks. I'm going to take a walk on my lunch break for 15 minutes every day for the next month. I'm going to sit down and have my morning cup of tea in the garden or outdoors getting some fresh air. Whatever it is, little commitments, doesn't have to be massive things, but right here, right now, today, whilst you're doing your homework, I want to make 3 commitments to your happiness, 3 things that you're going to do and commit to for at least the next 2 weeks. And I'm going to be checking up on you and watching you, every single one of you. I know where you live as well. So that's it for today. Much love to you. Remember, it's the first day of a brand new shiny week full of possibilities, opportunities, and obviously happiness. Much love to you all. Happy Monday. See you tomorrow.